It is a myth that there was some golden age of education, and the unions came along and made things complicated by giving teachers a voice.
When you look at the past, public education wasn't equal for all races.
I mean, teachers were paid the same as people who were washing cars for a living.
I think in the long run that the children will benefit from our efforts.
AFT has always fought for professional dignity and economic security. And through this, AFT has been and continues to be an essential part of making the United States more just, more equal, with more opportunity for all.
Margaret Haley started teaching at the age of 16, came to Chicago in 1882. Classes were overcrowded. The only difference between a prison cell and the Chicago classroom in many cases was a blackboard.
Had no political power. What they had was just the force of saying, we're standing together, we're shoulder to shoulder.
Margaret Haley proposes a radical idea to her 5,000 members, joining the Chicago Federation of Labor.
And so she used that to basically force the Board of Education to give higher wages, better pensions.
Improvements in curriculum, improvements in buildings, class sizes, and also sort of a general aura of more respect for teachers.
There was a backlash against the teachers organising. Some unionised teachers were getting pulled out of the classrooms and told that they could no longer teach in the schools. And there was an awareness amongst those few teacher unions that had been formed that there was a need for unification.
The American Federation of Teachers is founded in 1916, and it's founded by a number of organizations from a number of different cities.
They didn't have collective bargaining. To affiliate with labor will give them the power needed to influence through elections or community engagement to get the things they needed.
We're all organized around this idea of democracy in education, meaning teachers needed to be part of the organizational development of schools.
This challenges the power of the superintendent to control his school teachers.
The Yellow Dog contract was a contract that a teacher had to sign that said they would never join a union. It simply was a union-busting tool.
Resistance really took its toll on AFT membership. Locals would spring up all across the country, but they would often flame out just as quickly. By 1925, AFT was down to just 3,000 members.
It was illegal virtually everywhere for teachers to go on strike. They're barred from using the primary source of leverage that all labor unions have.
Teachers are not going to give up their fight for professional dignity.
Drawing on the civil rights movement, Shanker and other teacher union leaders said, there are some laws that are unjust and should be disobeyed. We'll go to jail if we have to.
Newark, New Jersey.
They have to bust the union.
The arrest started immediately, and very, very aggressively. They put you in handcuffs, and it would be a pushover. Just arrest them, and they'll cry, and they'll go back.
I have a child who's going to be very lonely without me being there this Christmas.
We had over 200 teachers. I received 9 months. Somebody pays that price for freedom. I didn't even want to be a hero. I was a school teacher.
In New York City, UFT defied state law and went on strike with only 5,000 members in 1960 to demand bargaining rights.
For many school teachers, that was the moment of truth. Picking up that sign.
Very proud to be out here with a picket sign.
We feel we're working for better schools.
We got enough closings of schools that we had some power to negotiate. And for the first time, teachers, as professionals, were on one side equal to management. That was like we reached heaven.
New York City created the spark that ignited across the country.
In '64, it was Cleveland, Detroit, Newark, then Philadelphia, Boston, D.C., Chicago.
I would see the union movement and the spread of collective bargaining as a civil rights movement of people asserting that they will be voiceless no more.
While higher education locals existed since the inception of AFT, the explosion of public sector bargaining starting in the 60s gave them a stronger voice in their institutions.
We will be on strike until we reach a negotiated resolution.
The fiscal crises of the 70s led public employees to unionize in order to stabilize their employment.
Fund public services.
healthcare workers found affiliating with AFT gave them more power bargaining with intransigent administrators.
Having that backup and support, it really sent a strong message to employers. It'd be better for you to settle.
Paraprofessionals and school employees also looked to the AFT.
I watched what they did for the teachers, and I think if they can do whatever they do for the teachers, they can do it for us.
They didn't take paraprofessionals seriously. That negotiation went for months.
They dare the UFT to go on strike. They essentially argue that the UFT's mostly white middle-class teaching corps is not going to go on strike for paraprofessionals. You have this kind of grassroots, classroom-based solidarity.
We had the community on our side, we had then the teachers on our side. We were going to chain ourselves to the chairs if they didn't give us what we want when we got our first contract.
And when you saw all those hands go up, black and brown and white, they all went up saying, yes, we want this contract.
The AFT, they made the biggest difference for our working conditions. They wanted to be treated with dignity and respect as a worker.
Organizing of paraprofessionals was part of AFT's history of fighting for racial justice and opportunity, including integrating leadership within the AFT and fighting for school desegregation.
Even though they were talking about these things, they still had segregated locals. Lyle Lane, who was the chair of the Human Rights Committee, saw this injustice and kept pushing that they needed to start to integrate the locals.
The conflict came to a head at the 1956 convention.
Herrick Roth from Colorado wrote the resolution. You keep telling us to wait, we can work it out. Enough of this, because we are teachers, we have to be in the forefront of integration of our schools.
Then we came in and took a vote. It was very, very tense.
A resolution was passed. It said that all locals that refused to integrate would have their charters revoked.
And so we lost a lot of members. Alabama, Georgia.
But a loss of members is also a loss of income, so that the AFT lost a pretty sizable chunk of its budget.
It set back AFT's effort to gain a voice at the bargaining table.
And I think it was the right thing to do.
That is one of the strongest integration stands I think ever taken in the country.
AFT has always been involved in positive social change, from the civil rights movements of the 60s to the recent fight to keep hard-won voting rights intact, to creating and ensuring marriage equality, to ensuring recent immigrants have the opportunity to become part of our country and are treated with dignity.
No hate, no fear. Hands up, don't shoot.
AFT has always fought for social justice, economic opportunity, a voice at work, a voice in our community, a voice in our country, a voice for dignity and respect.
When we are together, we can create a better world.